This is from Ojuelos, Jalisco, Mexico. It just seems like the resting pose, I believe. I'm not sure what the purpose of this guy is. Hey, thanks, Don. Flannel guy, I mean, this piece, for instance, can't be dated because there's no carbon or there's no life, type of material that was on there. But some of these pieces, like this, you can see is a mosaic of different stones glued together. And this glue has an organic material that you can test, carbon 14. And I've seen about 50 different tests total on that type of adhesive. And the dates range between 10 and 21,000 years old. However, it's not extremely accurate, but there's pieces that are ceramic as well, and they've done thermoluminescent core sample tests on those and saw that it was last fired in similar date ranges as old as 15,000 years ago on that type of test. So it's consistent on that range, but there's still a lot of research to be done before we can really say anything about this stuff for sure. It's fun to research, though. It's legal to own. It's not antiquity because even being that old, the government doesn't recognize it as part of history. There's no proof that the Mayans, worship this type of stuff. It does display a lot of Sumerian and Egyptian, Thoth type deities. Like you can see this box here from Tula, Hidalgo. It's got something familiar to some probably in it. Yeah, it's some Fred Flintstone stuff for sure. It's all from Mexico, Killer Queen. Although the deity like that right there is Enki, which is a Sumerian, deity. So yeah, it seems to be like some sort of watch or sundial. Yeah, it's got a quartz crystal on the inside here. I look forward to getting the date. Hopefully, the adhesive used to hold that crystal there, um, as well as maybe the mortar here, could be dated. I'm not sure. Yeah, I do, Zen. I'm up in Washington State. Yeah, happy. I think there's really something to that. Um, Osiris is is a really interesting story, especially with Thoth and the story of Thoth and Enki and how in cuneiform tablets Thoth told Enki he was going over to Mesoamerica to replant civilizations, and if there's stepped pyramids over there, and the Mayan, they don't take credit for building that stuff. And yeah, Atlantis type stuff for sure. I mean, it's a lot of it's pretty bizarre. Look at these little figures. It's really something of interest to me. Hang on, I'll set this down. All these little guys, I've documented over 4,000 of them, and they're all completely unique and individual. Many different types of races and depictions of races. You can see the size of these are, uh, I mean, ridiculous. Yeah, Easter Island. It definitely resemble like this guy here. You can see the Moai in him for sure. This guy too. There's actually a large statue near El Toro or on El Toro that's very similar to a Moai in the place in Jalisco that these are coming from. It's interesting to see that. I've always been really curious about that civilization, how it's just this remote island in the middle of nowhere with so much history in the Rapa Nui. It's a beautiful thing to understand, I guess. Well, you're in the right place, Deadhead. This is a Barbie world. I couldn't help myself. Well, Happy, I started researching them because I seen some of the pieces on the market. My buddy went to the Tucson Gem Show, and he had seen some of these and purchased them and brought them back, and was rubbing his scores in my face because I didn't go to the gem show that year, and yeah, I couldn't believe the stories I was hearing. There were scientists like Nassim Harriman and Greg Braden, Klaus Dona, Scott Woltard did a show on it, and all of them are saying that these things are that old, and I just really needed to know for myself, and I started to just try to wrap my head around it and talked to many, many families down there, close to 30 different families that I've worked with in different parts of Mexico, just trying to find holes in the story. They're all pieces from Mexico. Life is good. Different pieces found from Tula, Hidalgo, and Ojuelos, Jalisco. I do own everything, and yeah, Zinzan, I'm going to follow you. You can message me anytime. I can't read the comments afterwards. It deletes them, or at least I don't know how to find them. So, as far as owning these pieces, they are legal to own because the government does not acknowledge them as being authentic cultural pieces or historical antiquities due to the nature of what they represent. Aliens, UFOs, they don't they don't work with that. So, and they actually have a lot of these pieces. The archaeology and anthropology department down there is actually really quite awesome to work with. Sometimes dead, not anything that you're seeing right now. Like pretty much just researching this stuff, but there are pieces. I buy a lot of the stuff to research it, and I definitely get more than I need. I've got close to 550 pieces here right now, and yeah, my wife is not thrilled about it. Yeah, are they authentic is the big question, like there's a lot of questions around this stuff, and that's why I'm researching it. It's definitely possible they're authentic. The government says they're not, but there's certain artistic things about them, and certain things like what you're seeing with the glowing right now, and it's a lot of effort put into these things, especially for what they're being sold for. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of ritual and sacrifice type stuff found. Even deities like this guy here that I've never seen in Egypt, and it's actually the Eye of Ra, like attached to a body, is what that's depicting, and maybe it's actually Ra or the sun god of some form. But it's interesting that they would have a depiction of a deity like that on multiple pieces that isn't actually shown in Egypt, at least that I know of, in that form. Yeah, likely the Anunnaki or whatever civilization that you're in, whatever they called it. I think it varies. Like you look in the Bible, it's not the Anunnaki, but there's something similar that I forget the is it maybe the Anu or it's so similar that you have to wonder. No, life is good. I'm not an archaeologist. I don't dig stuff up, but I had questions about what I was seeing, and I just couldn't believe that it was real. It's still hard for me to be like, yeah, this is authentic. I'm sure there's pieces in this room that are absolutely made 20 years ago or 5 years ago or whatever it is, but some of this stuff, it just doesn't fit that bill. And so I'm just trying to figure out why, because if some of it's real or if the replicas are actually replicas of real pieces, which is what we're finding out. I document a lot of this stuff, and so I post the pictures on our website. I've been posting for a while, and it's crazy. 6 months later, we'll see pieces that are identical showing up, but they're out of the wrong type of stone, and but they're identical in terms of features. It's like someone completely knocked it off. We're starting to see that more and more, which is scary. Yeah, I don't know, Jason. There's definitely some of it that is for sure, and we're able to see that. But when you start getting into some of these mosaics and things like this, I mean, it's serious effort. Yeah, there's daggers here. Let me show you one of the bone daggers. Victor, we got a few things on aliencarvings.com, little pieces like these guys and stuff like that, but um, this a lot of the larger stuff is just still stuff that we've got to research. This dagger here is going to be carbon dated. Just we might be able to get two carbon dates out of it because of the mortar here if it contains organic material. But if we could, that would be definitely something of value. A lot of the jewelry and stuff is absolutely massive. I mean, you can see the size of some of these pendants and things. I mean, they're not something that I would sport. Uh, you know, weighs like 15 pounds for a necklace. It's pretty insane. And there's like these cups that are ridiculous sized. Even if they are modern, like the detail and like the quality of these carvings is something that I would collect regardless. I think, you know, like this is really great detail. It's all from Mexico. It's also interesting the leaf. These are gold leaf on these eyes, and they tested different alloys, both of them. Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I don't think it is in some of it, but there is definitely pieces that are. I mean, we're proving. Like I'm doing the research, and I mean, some of this stuff absolutely is. There's different stone types that are being used in pieces. Like for instance, here I'll show you. Like this box right here that contains this pine cone, I believe to be 100% genuine. But this box over here, notice the type of carving, and this is much different. It's a very porous stone. You go over here, not the same at all. And so we're concerned about this type of design here a lot more. This here, this type of stone is really interesting. We did a mineral analysis, and it's a dominant of quartz and calcite. And when you look at it, it's got all these holes in the surface. But we've had pieces break in shipment, and inside of them, there's not all the holes all the way through. So we think it might be a baked piece or a fired piece of some degree, pottery. out of quartz and calcite. I don't know, but just got a lot of questions, you know. The blade is obsidian. Yeah, I think it's. I don't know if it's necessarily green. It's more of a black, but it has some kind of a green to it. This dagger's pretty neat here. More of a ceremonial dagger, but you know, it's got down here. You can see it's got bracelets. These are gold, about 12 karat on this. Unrefined alloy, contained silver and zinc. And then this was like 13 karat, and these were like 12 karat. They were all different though, which was interesting, you know, and how they were set in there. Um, Definitely, I mean, something you wouldn't want to mess up on this type of carving. Yeah, these are not my art projects. These are my art pieces that I've collected from Mexico. The people that I've purchased them from claim that they come from the ground. I've seen multiple scientists research these, like Nassim Harriman, Greg Braden, Klaus Dona, Scott Woltar. I've seen over 50 carbon dates, multiple thermoluminescent dates on ceramic pieces, and everything shows that these are um, old, like 10,000 plus years old. Is that enough to say they're real? No, it's not. We're still researching it. A lot of people are, and hopefully in the upcoming future we'll have like more answers. It's just like the pieces in Peru that they're finding, and the pieces in Göbekli Tepe that are 12,000 years old. It hasn't rewrote history yet, even though we've pretty much debunked it. And that's the problem. Like rewriting history is really not something that's easy to do. It'd be the Younger Dryas period. Yeah, these aren't from Peru, Chip. These are from Mexico. Tula, Hidalgo, and Ojuelos, Jalisco. Yeah, it's not illegal. I don't make art. I own businesses up here. I've got a formulation company, and I just research these pieces. I really didn't think they were real myself, though. I just kept seeing things, like this stone death whistle, for instance. Um, there's ones that are absolutely ginormous here. This is like a 25, probably 30 pound at least stone. Yeah, yeah, here's Susan. Yeah, they're pretty great sounding. The big one here, I'll play it too. They're all from Mexico. Tula Hidalgo is where the whistles are from that I just was playing, and I'm gonna play the larger whistle now. I had to set you guys down, but here. I'm a musician, so I've had fun sampling them and playing with them. As far as the age, it really depends on the piece and from where it is that it was found. These type of pieces here have been dated between 10 and 21,000 years old. And these boxes I've seen between 8 and 15,000 years old. Now that's for carbon dates of adhesives on the inlays. You can't date stone. Um, and then also from thermoluminescent ceramic dating. I actually did read your comment, shit. I responded to it for a while. Enjoy your night, buddy. I had to block that guy for sure. No, you can't date stone, unfortunately. It has to have organic material in it. So, there's a lot of this stuff can't be dated, but yeah, Kung Fu. I agree. I've actually shown these pieces to people like J.J. Hurtak. If you read the Keys of Enoch or any of his work, you'll see dramatic similarities, and I mean down to the last symbol. I mean it's crazy. I knew he needed to see these, and I worked with Linda Moulton Howe for a while. I was really curious her take on it. I reached out to many of the personalities on Ancient Aliens and those type of shows. A lot of people just don't even want to touch this. There's no way it could be real type attitude. Or it's too hard to research it because Mexico in that area is very dangerous. Or, there's a lot of excuses. It's not stolen because the government doesn't claim it to be real. So even though it's been dug up, um, they say because it depicts aliens and UFOs that there's no way it could be real. So it makes it legal to dig and sell. Well, it's not legal to necessarily do archaeology digs in Mexico, but if you're plowing your field and find one of these objects, you can sell it legally, you know. And that's unfortunate because if it is even a 1% chance that this stuff's real, we need to make sure and prove it before we, go giving it away or letting it go. But down there in Mexico, there's so much sacred sites and things going on. It, it's really tough to manage, and they don't have the funding or the manpower to even try. There's so many sites and things down there to go through. Yeah, someone who came. Yeah, I went to the British Museum and I'm like, wow, where did you guys get all this stuff? Here, check this out. I'll show you a really interesting piece. The way it glows is pretty crazy. You can see like changes to blue. It's pretty crazy. Some more. I asked the exact same thing. I wrote to Robert Schock immediately to see. I sent my buddy over there. Well, I didn't send him specifically. Like he planned a trip to Egypt, and I planted the seed. Like, hey, take your light with you, and he did. He tried it on a few things and didn't see any reactions. But most of it was at daytime because you can't really go monument hunting at nighttime very safely over there as a Americans. I've also had the guys down in Mexico. See, the guys in Mexico didn't even know that these pieces did this. I bought them for almost a full year before I knew that they did this. And all of a sudden, we figured it out. I sent lights down to those guys, and in trade, they sent me videos and pictures for our website of their pieces and collection. Because a lot of the people down there, they collect pieces as well, which was interesting to me. Like when I'm offering someone, a really good money for a piece that I want, and they're telling me no, I'm not going to sell that one. It's kind of inconsistent for someone that's pulling a fast one. So, yeah, Saturn's really common. DNA, angels, deities like Thoth and Horus, um, very very common. Isis is found on pieces. Here I'll show you an example. Yeah, some of them it's definitely inlaid, and some of them are phosphorescent, Lola. That's one thing that's in common. There's phosphorescence and luminescence found on almost every piece that I'm showing you. J Kong, it's all of just depends. Some of them are inlaid, like you can see here. If I zoom in on this piece, uh, there you go. Like you can see the white underneath the black, and that white is a rock hard inlay that's been put into the cracks to glow. And I've tried to take samples of it, and it's really, really hard. I thought it to be interesting that Saturn was depicted here with, well, maybe it's not Saturn, but the rings were up above it. Yep, definitely checked them. I've got a Geiger counter here I can show you. Um, Checked them for radioactivity, electromagnetic frequencies, radio frequencies. Nothing on the Geiger. It's I'll just leave it there. If it beeps at us, we're in trouble. Then the electromagnetic, you'll see like the pieces. Some of them will have like real fluctuations, and they all kind of have their own thing. And I mean, these are just inches away, and there's this much of an influence different. It's bizarre to me. I've taken them outside and in different locations, different rooms, and gotten the same results, which is crazy because there's definitely something to that regarding the piece itself. And I've tested it with my raw collection, and you definitely get some different EMF frequencies off of things, but I don't know. It's doesn't mean anything scientifically, I don't think, but it's something. As far as radio frequencies, there's something there too, but nothing. Oh, whoa, that was a big spike. That's probably my 4G. But you can see, yeah, there's weird spikes, and that could just be my environment, but there's definitely something registering, and it's different as well on the pieces, which I found. It's not just the room or whatnot. Yeah, the Freemason symbol is, well, this symbol has actually been found all the way back to cuneiform tablets like 4,000 years ago. So it does date back before the Freemasons. Yeah, absolutely. I looked that up on Wikipedia right away as soon as I seen this piece because I didn't believe it. And then I seen that it was cuneiform. I was like, wow, well, okay. It's just amazing some of the stuff that they're bold enough to use on these pieces. If it is a hoax, they would have to have really intelligent knowledge of multiple cultures' history to attempt to use things like that without it being debunked super easily. No, definitely not doing it for money. There's multiple of us. We're trying to create a museum. We're doing it digitally right now first before we try anything in person. But we're gonna, put everything on the NFT blockchain. We've got Nift and I's doing a NFT project for us, and then everything will be decentralized and safe at that point. We're gonna do 60 megapixel 3D photogrammetry scans that will come with the NFT. That way people can print it or research it in high resolution and zoom in and really examine the cracks and the pieces well. Yeah, this is all from Mexico, Louise. It's it's definitely something of interest down there. Mexico's a hot spot for this type of stuff, and it's really interesting to read about the Toltecs and Tula and the Atlanteans and how that pyramid of Quetzalcoatl statues looked a certain direction because of them. And Thoth is the Atlantean, and his story with Enki of going over to Mesoamerica, and you see this type of the boat scenes, passing the pine cone all over the place. It's interesting to think that maybe Thoth did make some of the South American and Central American cultures and seed those civilizations, and teach them, and so on. Yeah, yeah, I upload all these to YouTube, so if you ever want to catch up. These are from Ojuelos, Jalisco, and Tula, Hidalgo. You know, Guerrero is hot for crime. Guerrero's pieces, though, I have questions about. I'll show you a few of those. This is a typical Guerrero piece. Daggers and interesting things. The pieces are semi-consistent. Some of them have, aliens or angels on them. They have inlays. Some of them have dated, into the thousands of years old. Some of them have dated modern, which is probably just the adhesive and different compounds that are in it, like different copal resin or something. None of it dated back to the age that we're seeing in Tula or Ojuelos, though. However, yeah, it is datable, J-Kong. What's also really interesting about these, though, is that the bones are phosphorescent. They have a glow about them as well, which is the common trend with all this stuff. So it's interesting. I don't know. The most, yeah, I think that could be what we're seeing. We are entering the age of Aquarius officially here very soon. I think right now we're fully in for a little while until Pluto retrogrades, and it feels good. So, yeah, happy Allah, Yahweh, Yote, Vote, uh, many names, Jehovah. I don't care the one though, the capital G. Yeah, we probably are the aliens or something even more advanced. Extraterrestrials, I mean, ultra terrestrials is maybe more like it, multi-dimensional beings. I think we are capable. It's just we're not trained or ready yet to fully embrace. But I think some people with remote viewing, channeling, that sort of stuff, it's it's definitely signs that we're capable. And you look at Jesus and the resurrection and the Shroud of Turin and the change into a light body possibly that occurred there. Um, it's very interesting to think that we do have that capability. And you look at ayahuasca, some of these type of psychedelics, and the multidimensional factor comes into play there too. Yeah, it's very interesting, Jay Kong. I can't believe how involved the government is in remote viewing. They paid people and hired people and trained people to do this during the Cold War against the Russians and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it still probably goes on. I mean, that's just what we know of from then. So imagine what's going on now that we don't know about. Who knows? Yeah, Stephen Greer's really awesome. He does a lot of work in Lake Cuitzeo, Mexico, and has a lot of similar findings that he posts. Yeah, water. Lots of stuff has been carbon dated. Obviously, you can't date the rock, but you can see this type of glue that holds these stones together. This has organic material in it, so there's lots of pieces that we've dated that way, as well as through the inlays, the stones that are put on like that. You can scrape those as well. The date ranges that we found is 10 to 21,000 years. There's also ceramic thermoluminescent dates that range up to 15,000 years. So the consistency is similar with two different aging processes. Yeah, a lot of them are sellouts because they have to be. A lot of these networks, Gaia, Discovery, History Channel, they won't work with you unless you sell out. You got to modify your narrative and watch what you say. Otherwise, they're not going to have you on their programming, and so then you're not going to get paid. So these people sell out. I worked with Linda Moulton Howe for a while, and there's just certain things that I learned in that process that trying to hey, can you ask Giorgio or David maybe some questions about this or something? They're ghosting me. You seem to want to do an expedition down there, but yet there's no communication, no working together. It was very odd vibes, and it felt like sellouts. I think there are people that are legit though, like Graham Hancock, J.J. Hurtak. These guys are getting dirty, and I think they're doing a really good job. That's a good question, Derek. I'm trying to figure that out. To say that these are the real deal is a serious, serious accusation of something you best be sure about. And yeah, Brian Forster's really great too. He also does a lot of work down in Mexico. Well, I think these aliens, Matthew, are actually interdimensional beings because they're not just aliens. They're depicted with angel wings in multiple cases and in different forms, like, you know, a mermaid with angel tails and an Anki face and different things that you would see out of Egypt or Samaria. But, in relation to the UFO thing, it's interesting. In the Bible, there's a lot of talk of, you know, this type of stuff, especially in Enoch and Giants and different books that have been removed. So it definitely makes me ask questions. Yeah, Derek, the Father Crespi story, we were just talking about that. I was live with One True History, or Our True History, my bad. And yeah, it's really interesting what happened to his collection. I actually know a guy that was able to study his collection prior to him passing away. And I mean, he definitely said those pieces were authentic. He's like, there was just no question. And Klaus Dona did some research on them as well and found that a lot of them had luminescence very similar to this. So, yeah, the Mayans were so far advanced. You got to wonder where they got that intelligence, and you got to really wonder where anyone got some of this stuff. The wheel, the language specifically. I mean, a lot of that's credited to Thoth or Hermes Trismegistus. Um, So it all comes back to these fallen angels, and Thoth was kind of special because he could go to the underworld and to the heavens, and he was kind of a link between them. And uh, it's interesting. The Emerald Tablets are a good read too. Yeah, pre-Mayan by like over 5,000 years. And that's what's interesting too is the date ranges are consistent with like Gobekli Tepe and some of the Peruvian sites that they've been recently finding. 8+ thousand. Yeah, Klaus Dona is amazing. I wish um, I would love to be able to pick his brain for the weekend or something. Like off the books. That's the thing. Like a lot of the good information is probably not something that a lot of people talk about publicly at this point. The Vatican absolutely most likely does. So does the Smithsonian probably. Um, the Smithsonian has come out and taken back so many different things. It's especially in the Grand Canyon with Kincaid back in the early 1900s. He said that he found all kinds of stuff like this, and they came out with it in newspapers. And yeah, I don't know, Happy. I don't know. The full circle, you know. I think Satan probably has his temptation and deception weaved so deep into the Catholic Church that it might seem like that. But I think at the heart, there's still probably a good beat. Unfortunately, the temptation and corruption around it is defeating in so many ways. I think maybe even, just like our president doesn't get briefed on everything, that maybe even the Pope doesn't get briefed on everything. Like they're keeping it from him even too. Yes, we are. The Adam Kadmon, made in his image. It's an interesting statement. I would love to go and check out what they have. It even down in Mexico or some of these other areas too. Because there's just a lot of pieces that don't fit the narrative. They don't display them because of that. So it's really quite frustrating. I had to do the slow like pan because like this guy has the Pope hat on, so I thought it was fitting. I wish I had some like suspenseful music during that, but I'll do an edit later. Yeah, that's what we're trying to figure out if they're real or not. I have reason to believe that there's definitely real pieces here in this collection, and I'm pretty sure that there's fake ones too. We're researching it to figure out how to determine that. And here, I'm going to turn this light off real quick. I wanted to show this Ankh. It looks really great in the dark. I probably won't have this here again. It takes up a lot of space. Yeah, there's a lot of lies that they're acknowledging. Stuff's definitely coming out about UAPs and the fact they changed it from a UFO to a UAP and all these things. It's an interesting time. Like this piece has such bright UV on it that you can see the wall behind it glows green because it's so bright. It's amazing that the UV on these pieces makes the carving look, in my opinion, uh, way better. Like especially this piece here. I mean, when you look at it, it's kind of off looking, but then you hit the UV and it's crazy. I'm not familiar with the missing 411. Yeah, Chaz, check out our website, aliencarvings.com. There's over 12,000 pictures on there. It's a pretty deep rabbit hole. Like I say, that's why I think there's definitely legitimate pieces, and I believe there's false ones. To have this many artisans in modern times all agree to make pieces telling the same story. In this, I mean, we're talking in the tens of thousands. It would take serious motivation and serious collaboration. And I can tell you right now, after working with 30 different families down there, that they are in competition with each other to get that money. I mean, they need that money. It is, not a wealthy area down there, and things with inflation are, extremely tough living. So it's, you think you could throw a bone in there and uh, screw up their story somehow, or that they would screw it up and start doing different things, but that's just not the case. It's all angels and alien UFO stuff, so it's interesting. Oh no, you do, Div. I've got a Jed pillar. The top piece here that's got the stack of things on there. I've got the pillar by itself without the ankh, and I mean, it literally feels like you're shaking the entire room when you're holding it. It's absolutely insane. Yeah, Winks. Well, if you read stuff like the Keys of Enoch or J.J. Hurtak's work, you'll see that there are extraterrestrials, and the Palladians and distant galaxies and things of that nature are likely real. But then there's also ultra terrestrials, which is, yeah, your angels and demons or the fallen or whatever name they want to go by. But that's where I think there's things like this with duality and reptilians and so I think there could be ultra terrestrial and extraterrestrial, um, especially with the type of interplanetary depictions that they show on many of these pieces. And I'm not talking the Book of Enoch. I'm talking the Keys of Enoch. If you go to keysofenoch.org, it's from author J.J. Hurtak, and it's something you just got to take a look at. It's yeah, I yeah. No, it's a really really interesting thing. He has a story. He worked. He was hired by Walt Disney's brother and worked for the California Institute down there, the Art Institute in Southern California, back in the '60s and '70s as a professor. He's got two PhDs and a master's. He speaks 15 languages. He's a very gifted man, and so he social sciences and ancient cultures was his major, and so he discovered the Tome of Osiris, but he had an experience working for Disney doing meditations in Sanskrit and Hebrew with a composer from India, and they were doing these chants and these prayers and saying the sacred names, and all of a sudden he was enveloped in a light and went missing for 2 days, and he was blessed with a garment of knowledge is what he came back with, and he was taught by Enoch how to basically translate the Bible to man today in the proper version. So the Keys of Enoch is that. And it's pretty deep. It's like hearing it from Enki or from Enoch himself. I read Enki was a scientist. So, yeah, I believe he was a scientist or a creator of universes. It's said in Hertog's work that we're here to learn on this planet, and then there'll be these 144,000 people who get it and are capable of becoming masters or creators of universes when they ascend. And so those creators of universes, I believe, will be like the next Enki for those upcoming civilizations, right? It's all from Mexico, Tula, Hidalgo, or Ojuelos, Jalisco. Yeah, unity, unconditional love. Unconditional love's, I think, the big one. That's once we understand that, it's on. Yeah, Anu. I think Anu could be the same as Yahweh or Yote Vote, possibly. I don't know. The whole Greek mythology with the Titans and the Olympiads and Zeus and the storyline of Zeus and his children like Horus or Apollo, and then Horus being who he was I believe the resurrection of Osiris. So it's interesting to see that storyline and all the connections between them. And they're all from Mexico. Yeah, human. I mean, if you plant seeds for a living, like cannabis, for instance, if you're genetically hunting things, I mean, you pop thousands of seeds to get the winners, right? So, 144,000 out of 8 billion might be the ratio of genetics that are capable of creating universes, right? You got to think of the monumental task at hand here, and how severe corruption and temptation can be to a universe if that's the case. Yep, keysofenoch.org. You got it. I was just gonna say it's got to be 46 and 2. I love Tool. It's one of my favorites. Tool's a really great thing. They focus. Maynard's a genius, obviously, but they focus so much on different types of styles and creating sacred geometry with their music, and it's really amazing. I see so much sacred geometry and how it holds the world together, and then I listen to their music and close my eyes and just like it's right there, like they're right in rhythm with the world. It's quite amazing. A lot of LSD required to get to that point. I promise you that. I play the synthesizer. Yeah, check it out. Music Regardless on Bandcamp. I make like I took this piece. This was one of my first pieces here, and I recorded a whole album with it in my hands or on my lap as I was playing the synthesizers. I've got a bunch of analog modular synths, and it's really fun just to see. I mean, I don't know if it influences it or not, but it's an interesting experiment. Yeah, tune it. The A440 is not what I'm doing. I definitely try to change to more of the 528 or 523, I think it is, more of the Gregorian things. Oh, Chaz, I don't even want to talk to you about that. Like before I collected these stones, I collected synthesizers. So yeah, I've invested way too much money. I've actually slimmed it down a lot though because it became overwhelming. There's too many wires, and when I'd want to change something or repatch, it was absolute devastation to my week. It's by J.J. Hertok, Jim. I find it interesting how they set stuff. Like it's so clean. Yeah, Div, it's interesting. That 440 they say is the devil's frequency, and the way that it oscillates is actually poison in terms of spirituality, and the Romans did that to help suppress, which I find to be really peculiar. I mean, obviously, you gain the extra tone in that thing, but I don't know. It's 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 something to think about in terms of music quality for sure. They definitely probably do. Yeah. The fact that cannabis has been such a bad thing, yeah, they're definitely not trying to help anybody. The Dogon people had it right with cannabis, and I think that's why the Dogon people were so smart. They said they were said to be the ones that brought it here, and they had this festival that they celebrated when the Greek scholars went down 3400 BC, and they knew the elliptical orbit of Sirius B, and that star was said to be fake and not existent until we had advanced technology in the 90s, and finally we proved it. And the dates that they celebrated were exactly the right dates, which was crazy. And they also worship the Nomu, these aquatic beings. That's why I'm showing this right now, and I think that could very well be the same, you know. Yeah, the Emerald Tablets is probably what you're saying, or is the Book of Thoth from Aleister Crowley? Aleister Crowley, I've done quite a bit of research on him. I haven't read Billy Carson's Emerald Tablets book, but I definitely intend on. I listened to a YouTube reading of the Emerald Tablets. I like to listen to audio more than read. Heck yeah, you know, have a good day. Yeah, I'm about to go to bed actually. I forgot that it's late. Yeah, in fact, I'm going to do that, guys. I'll catch you here in the next couple few days. You guys have a good rest of your weekend. I'm in Washington State, King. See you guys.